Welcome to Kentucky Horsepower, the official podcast of the Kentucky Automobile Dealers Association. Hi, good day, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Kentucky Horsepower, the official podcast of the Kentucky Auto Dealers Association. My name is Jason Wilson, and joining me today is Gabrielle Summe. Gabe, did I pronounce your last name right? I should have asked before we came
Summe.
over.
It's
Summe.
okay.
Thank you so much.
Even my uncles don't say it right.
Appreciate you joining us. Gabe is the county clerk of Kenton County. We're in a larger state. She is a lifelong resident of Kenton, and she has been in her role as the clerk since 2010. She was the first female Kenton County clerk, and a couple of things that Gabe is known for is she's made it a priority to preserve the county's history by digitizing its records, and she's committed to utilizing technology to save time and money in better serving her citizens in her county. So Gabe, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate you taking some time today. Let's talk about technology a little bit, just sort of at the onset here. And as you know, there's been some technology glitches here over the last month or so. As we say, it's great when it works, but as this work is underway to go from AVIS to KAVIS, there has been some challenge there. And you and I have spoke earlier on that. How have you dealt with that specifically, and what are your thoughts overall just on that process and the need to move forward to create a more seamless process, especially in this age of COVID, cases rising again and everything else?
Well, the biggest disconnect, or with AVIS going into KAVIS, and that's about a year away. One of the key things that will make things, I believe, a lot easier for dealers as well as clerks is a centralized lien system. I believe everybody's very agreeable to that, very committed to that, and that would be an awesome piece of equipment or piece of software. And the reason why that's so key is that the processing of putting a lien on and it either being continued and or taken off, there's a little bit less people involved in the process, as long as you are making sure that the lien holder is being protected at all times in the process.
Sure.
The biggest concern for me always is that when AVIS is down or the disconnect between the two systems, that it does slow down our processing of liens. The terminations, that's usually not such of an issue, but making sure that we have put them on in a timely fashion to protect the collateral for the banks and whoever the lien holders are. Right now, the whole goal is to make sure that a lien is perfected and that it is not subject to being stripped, whether it's in a bankruptcy or any other kind of litigation in which it's not protecting the asset itself. So that's always a concern as far as timing, because a lot of times, due to the volume that's happening, we don't get paperwork to process until we're close to maybe day 29 before we can process the lien. And if the system's not working, that's a huge concern for everyone involved. Was it timely filed? And if it needs to be perfected, because as with anything, most offices want to put it on and then check it the next day. So we do need that time to make that get that accomplished.
Yeah, it's certainly important. As you know, you talk to dealers all the time. The dealer body here very much wants to move forward, like other states, our neighboring states, where that process is in place. Just to your north, Ohio has a system in place that starts at the dealer level and goes through their clerk's offices. So certainly interested in moving that forward, and very much appreciate your view on that, and as well, because in the end, I think we all want the same thing, is that's just to provide a good service that benefits everybody, both the consumer and the dealers, where all this begins. So I appreciate your comments on that. You and I chatted earlier, and there's a few items you thought would be helpful to chat about as it relates to just best practices, things that would be helpful for dealers and some of their folks, maybe to their title clerks and even their F&I folks to get refamiliarized with and check things out. One of the things we talked about was just processing liens. So I'm going to see if I can bring this form up that you shared with me, and we can talk about a little bit. And let's see. Let me know if you see that, and then I can scroll up and down as needed.
There it goes.
Perfect. So let's talk about this form a little bit. What are some of the things you'd like to highlight on this, things that dealerships need to be aware of to ensure this is handled properly and as smoothly as possible?
Well, one of the things about, of course, processing liens, because most of the dealers are actually doing this on behalf of whoever's, financing the car. So this paperwork sometimes is a pass through for the dealer, or they could be doing their own financing, which is fine. I just want people to be kind of conscious of the fact that these forms are all created by the Kentucky Department of Transportation, or KYTC. And that means that they always are going to mark up at the corner the date. And so it always has to be the most recent one. Lately, I've had people faxing them to me, or they did them online or something, and they almost look like a postage stamp. They really need to be the original paper. Until the statutes are changed, we can't e-record these. These do need to come in a paper format in the originals. Now, there's some really unique things about title liens, and that's kind of why I really appreciate you giving me an opportunity to talk, because the way these are filled out makes the processing so much faster. So must be the July 2016. The way you will know that is at the very bottom, there's some disclaimers in red, and these forms are available if people need ones. If they need them, that's fine. They are not available just on the internet. And the reason for that is that somebody can't go out there, print off this form and take their own lien off their car. Because the unique thing about this, and this is really more protections for the lien holder as well as the dealer. Please make sure you mark the box at the top. I really need to know if it's an original filing, if it's being continued, or terminated. Of course, we already talked about the current form, but in the original, please make sure that you are checking to make sure the VIN, the lien holder name, the type, the car, and all of that is on there. And the other thing is that with an original, please don't sign them. It's not required by law. And if you do, and I get it, you want the person who is taking a loan out on their car to sign this, but by signing it and dating it, it is also telling you when the deal actually happened. And my concern, it hasn't happened yet, but my concern is that date would be used to say this, from the time that this deal was happened, should have been on the car, and your 30 days is out. I have things that have been processed in March, and I'm getting them, the paperwork's finally being done, and the date is reflective of that. I really am really concerned. So I would really appreciate if they don't, it's not necessary, so don't have it happen. You can indicate it somewhere else. That would be huge. The other thing is not putting on a social security number. We redact them here when we do see them. And I know that that's probably an internal control. That's fine. Last 4 digits are good, but the whole social, I'm just concerned because I make sure, unlike other counties, I make my records public. So if anybody out there files, terminates, or continues about a day or two after we have done that process, they can actually go onto my Kenton deeds and actually look them up. And therefore confirm that something has been processed. And so I really don't want anyone's social floating around there. The other thing on the VTR, and the VTR is that, again, form numbers are form numbers, 96-182, really it's the vehicle transfer paperwork, and this is not on the lien. A lot of times people will put that there's a lien pending on their VTR to transfer a car. And this usually happens with out-of-state cars just because you use the back of the title for Kentucky. But what happens at that point in time is then I don't get a title lien statement. So all of a sudden I'm like, well, do I have a lien or I don't have a lien? And I'm hearing from some of the dealers that they have been able to program their systems to print or type on the VTR, and they've got it preset to put in lien information in there, but the lien information doesn't exist. It's very confusing. It'd be very hard once we put something on, because we're going to always try to err on the side of making sure that there's a protection to get it off if there's really no lien pending there. So that's just, again, looking at your paperwork. So just a couple other quick suggestions just to make life, I think, a little easier. The statute that was changed is to protect both the lien holder, the dealer, and the clerk when a client comes in and says, I live in Boone, but they actually live in Kenton.
Right.
So you're allowed to kind of depend on the person telling you where they live. So that is often reflected on the VTR. Again, what county do you live in? I'm not sure. A lot of times the driver's license is reflective of that.
Okay.
But if people get real ID, it's no longer going to have the county of residence in there. So my concern is that they're really finding or verifying where they are.
I gotcha. Okay.
At that point in time, one of the things that you could do to make sure this is being actually filed in the proper place is either putting it on the VTR, which I'm seeing a lot of, or putting it actually on the lien. Adding a little bit of information like that doesn't do anything wrong. It's just that you need to be, careful to make sure it is, because we'll file it there, because I have a lot of streets that go from Kenton right into Boot, and they may be right on that cusp. And as long as you are comfortable with the fact that they are where they say they are, then you should be okay, and it shouldn't be subject to being stripped into bankruptcy. My other comment is always make sure that if you have husband and wife, that you make sure that they both have driver's license, or they both agree that they live in the same county. And I've had that happen. Husband and wife, it's filed in one and not the other, and they have conflicting driver's license, 2 different counties, and it was able to be stripped into bankruptcy. And and that's very frustrating, because that's just what happens.
Right.
So that to me are just some touch points on there. And again, on your terminations, again, please make sure your lien holder is signing and dating. And that's the only time you need to sign the document.
Okay.
So I need an authentication that the secured party is signed off. I have a lot, and I don't know, I'm still researching this. I have a lot of times that I have auction houses, they'll send me a whole packet. Their names are signing off on behalf of the bank. If that is okay by the bank or the dealer, and they've got authorization, I'm not going to question that so much. It is a little disconcerting when I see someone's same signature all the way across and on behalf of the bank. So I would just caution that they make sure that that person has the authority to sign off on a termination, and that they definitely, besides signing and dating it, that it should match the original filing document. And again, a lot of times you don't have that, or we don't do the 3 sheets anymore.
Right.
Again, people can look, if it's in Kenton County, they can look and see what the original document looks like. People change names, people change addresses, just enough so we can make sure that it's this person who started with the lien, and it's this person whose lien is being taken off. We just need to be able to kind of do what I call granimals, match it up.
Right. That makes sense. A lot to keep up with, for sure.
Well, I think everybody on the whole does a great job. I don't want to diminish how much we do through here, and a lot of it is just seamless. It's just that when you do a lot of volume, which is awesome, you guys are great at it. Just to give numbers, we traditionally did 600 transfers here a month. In April alone, we did 5,000 on top of all the other things that we were doing. And so that's a lot. And so for the most part, it's doing well. I just want to do some reminders, as well as some protections, so that my dealers and the lien holders are not putting themselves in a position that would jeopardize that lien.
And that's a real concern amongst our members. As you know, you've had these conversations before, and we've had some members, unfortunately, last year get stung on that beyond 30-day scenario. So it is a very real thing, and anything that can be done to keep things smoother and going through the process certainly helps with all that. Now, I know you're doing some things specific to your county. Others might be interested in hearing about that. If you'd like to share that, feel free.
Yeah, well, one last comment about the 30-day rule, which I know is a federal issue. I'm not quite sure if anybody has ever said, okay, this is the date that your 30 days starts from. And I think that would be a great learning thing for not only the county clerks, but the lien holders, and that, because, what starts the clock?
Right.
The date that the deal is signed, the day the car is there, the date it's processed in my office. the date that we receive it. There's never been a real definitive 30-day. And I think that when you're waiting on someone to their financing to be approved, or they need to bring paperwork back to you, and you're kind of in a holding pattern at the time before the car's even officially owned by someone, what is that? When do we start the clock? And I think that that could be a great protection for everyone involved in the process.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I have a feeling that with a few phone calls and some insight, we could get that answer and be happy to share that. So I'm gonna take that up on my end and see what I can find out on that to provide that.
And I think that the Clerks Association would think that that would be a great training for them as well, because, you know, we're concerned too, because even if we have it in our paper, in our hands, and we fail on this other end to put something in place in a timely fashion, there is always that possibility that we would then be the cause of that error, and therefore might have to purchase a car, which of course would not be something any of us would want to do.
Right, absolutely.
So as far as Kenton County, and again, every county is a little different. Everybody processes their liens different. We all have different vendors to do that through, which is what is often very frustrating, because AVIS was never created for there to be liens technically within their system. They're there so they print on the title, but they were never tracked as far as per county. So that's why it takes us longer. And I just want people to realize that, because I kind of consider them like little car mortgages, right? So that being said, when I produce a lien in whatever fashion that I receive it, it is scanned into my system. It's called Kenton Deeds, www.kentondeeds.com. And what that means is they could go in there under the free access portion. It saves a lot of calls, saves a lot of time, and they can go in there and they can search by the file number, the VIN, or the person in whom the lien is against, and they can see that. Now, I'm speaking strictly for myself, because that is my choice. And at some point, I don't know how other people do it. A lot of people don't have those capabilities computer-wise, nor the staff to accomplish something of that magnitude.
Right.
For us, it works. There's also another online vehicle information system, and I know a lot of the dealers must probably already do this, but you can see any other county liens through what they call AVIS. And AVIS is, of course, a subscription. I don't know exactly how much it costs, but it doesn't let you see the physical document itself, but it does let you search by VIN, by file number. You can see if something's been terminated. Basically, something has been, filed originally, and when it's been terminated. It's not as easy with the continuances. Continuances are important, but they are mainly held at the county level. And the reason why is because AVIS doesn't have the ability for me to go in there and put a continuation date. So whenever we go to terminate a lien, before we even terminate, we always look to see if in our county system that lien had been continued. That's important, because we are, again, protecting that asset. So that's the only thing that is why it's crucial that we eventually get to a centralized lien system. You can see the whole life of the lien, versus just its birth and its death. So that to me is me. The other thing for Kenton County specifically is we have gone to a text queue system. I was having 2-hour lines. My lines are still as long as they've always been. They're just being handled differently. We have 2 separate offices, Covington and Independence. So we have 2 separate text queue systems. And that means that if a dealer wants to send somebody down, great. They have 3 deals. We'll do 3 deals while they wait in line. They do need to text and get themselves in line. If they do it fairly early in the morning, that moves faster. Of course, around lunch is when a lot of people are taking off lunch to come to the office. It's a lot slower. And at that point in time, it's very simple. They put their name in, they say what they're there for, Usually they're going to pick out a transfer, and then they're called into the office. If COVID becomes an issue again, where are limiting who's coming to our building, this will be an excellent way for people to hang out in their cars and then be called in. And then we really don't stop progress or stop people from moving forward. It's just a much more controlled way of bringing people into the building.
Yeah, I'm sure that's been very popular with your folks because look, we all text. In some cases, we have more text throughout the day than we have conversations. That's just sort of where we've evolved. So again, forward thinking from that standpoint. I guess one other thing I'd like to ask why we have you here, as far as things that dealers can do, the things they can control to ensure it really is a good relationship with the respective counties and that the information is flowing as well as it can be. What are some recommendations you have, just in a very general sense, to sort of go through that while we have our dealers here engaged?
Well, the biggest thing for me is always communication. And I reached out to you because when we start having issues with KAVIS or AVIS or whatever's going on, you're going to be a huge point of contact for everybody. So you being on all of our email lists is crucial. This is happening because it might just be happening, certain things happening in Kenton County versus some other county. But for the most part, you should be on everybody's list to provide information. But I know that there's a lot of dealers out there that do not become part of the association. So we try to communicate with them. We ask that everybody give us an email address and a phone number. Emails are great because I can do a blast email as quickly as I can to, just send people a note that say, we had a water main break, or, we're having this issue or that issue. We also do a lot of ACH here, and I know a lot of other counties don't. So a lot of times when we're working with that, it's nice to be able to broadcast all of our information to people as opposed to the individual phone call. But if they don't have that ability, I want people to send me their phone numbers. I would just recommend that the amount of paperwork that comes through us, again, just a suggestion, for the most part, I think everybody's awesome, is just making sure there are certain things that hard stop us from moving forward. And that's going to be customer signatures or notaries that are properly done, or odometer readings, things that are crucial to the car being transferred, car color, our sale price, making sure the cylinders are there. So those are things that are so intrinsic to what we're doing that we just ask that somebody do a quick review, make sure those things aren't missing, and don't be upset when we send them back because we can't move forward without that. Now, there's always better ways of doing that, either having the customer come down here or it goes back to there. Everybody's a little different on how they want their deals handled. So that's going to kind of be a ongoing issue between the clerk's office and the dealers. But the other thing I want to stress is a lot of times we'll have dealer numbers missing, and we have processed a lot of stuff without them, or they'll be on one paper and not another. So a lot of times we have made, that's to me not such a hard stop. I can write that dealer number in somewhere else, right, and move the paperwork along. According to the transportation cabinet, they will be looking at that more closely. And if dealer numbers are missing, it may stop that title from processing. Now, we've already done a lot of stuff on our end, but we just want you all to be aware of that. That really make sure your you drive it numbers on there or your dealer numbers on there, so that it can make things go so much faster. It doesn't stop us from processing. The one and same letters. Now that's just something that never happened until like 2020. All of a sudden I started getting all these, we're one and the same and everything. That's fine. If you have one, send it to me now. I'm trying to create a database so that we can at least look at it as opposed to having to get it every time. But it is crucial because we need to be able to, like, chain of custody, know that this person is this person is this person. So if you've got them, send them, or at least reference them. And if you're going to use a correct dealer number, I don't want my people to go, oh, like, here's this laundry list of dealer numbers I could pick. I need to know which one it's going to be under. And then I agree, this paperwork is almost overwhelming. There's too many little boxes everywhere. So because it's a multi-purpose form, If you can type it, awesome. If you're handwriting it, at least if the VIN is really well written or in some way there, that just makes it easier for us to read, because especially when we're bringing cars from out of state, that's where the wheels kind of fall off the bus.
Okay.
Pun intended. And then, of course, making sure your vehicle, if it's needed, your acquisition form, dealer assignment form is there, trade-in information with a trade-in price. And if you have the title number, that would be great. And then if there's any special requests on special plate transfers, we need to know, do they want it transferred, not transferred? If this flat plates that are currently out there go to the next level, a lot of what's going to happen, particularly in Kenton County, for me, is that whatever they're requesting will eventually be mailed directly to the customer. So in a lot of these circumstances, we're sending everything back to the dealer. Every dealer is a little different. They want us to send them the plate so they can do a certain customer, presentation or not. But we just need to know if there's any special instructions as it relates to special plates. And again, the same thing on my behalf. I say to my staff, we're processing this. Please make sure you're putting enough information in there for the next people who process this, which is the transportation cabinet.
Right.
So again, just nothing's ever going to be perfect, but just a quick review, make sure all of our goods are there, and then we can get to the next step faster.
Well, look, this has been really helpful, especially to me, as I'm still learning a lot of the processes and procedures in the state. But I know training is important to you. I know you do that. You have trainings within your county and work with your clerks and dealer clerks as far as ensuring that everyone is on the same page. Talk a little about just some of the training stuff that you do. I know that's important to you.
So I try to cross train as much as possible so that at the end of, when we are down, I have more people who can, back up to do that.
Sure.
So the way that we are currently working on that is I am in the process of really restructuring my dealer office to be more of its own separate unit, just because of the volume.
Right.
And in the past, I didn't really need to do that, but it's becoming imperative now. But when you're doing that, it's a little bit of a different than somebody standing in front of you, because there's so many other pieces of paperwork, the acquisitions, the power of attorneys, all of that you don't need when a physical person is in front of you. So that being said, we are working, we have a supervisor who's very good at dealer work, and she is slowly but surely identifying things that are and this is where actually this kind of spiel came from. Where are we finding people struggling? And they were struggling with, okay, what dealer number do I put in here? Or I'm missing information. Do I reject it or don't reject it? And we're saying, okay, best practices. What's the hard stop? What isn't the hard stop?
Mm-hmm.
So moving forward, though, we feel like what we process and what the title clerks process is a totally different view. So we are starting to develop and reach out to any of our local dealers to say, would their title clerks like to come here? Mm-hmm. Or we set up something where we can sit down with them and say, this is what we need so that AVIS needs for us to go to the next step. Right. And for the most part, a lot of them do. I know that there's a lot of new title clerks out there. So a lot of our people are on the phone with them. This is a symbiotic relationship. Mm-hmm. Okay. It can't be adversarial. So we're hoping that by that communication, we can say, okay, if you get done what you need to on your end, and I've got what I need, then it flows down the line. So I'm a little off topic, but I'm still kind of putting together the best way to train not only my internal staff moving forward, but also putting together a little training where we would have somebody down. We do already have somebody who's interested, but I had somebody who was on vacation, so I wasn't able to pull it off where they're allowed to come down here. And so we're hoping to get that accomplished at least in September, where they're allowed to come down, kind of sit in the back so they can see how things are processed on our end, and kind of just have a general talk about what happens at the point of sale with the car and how it then gets to us.
Well, look, I think you touched on a huge point, and one that I've had a number of conversations with dealers and others, is that this is and cannot be an adversarial relationship. Everybody's working towards the same thing here, and it's about finding the best ways to work together under this the current constraints of how we are set up today. That will change over time and evolve, hopefully, as we look to modernize. But at this point, it's important to have that good open communication, which is why I appreciate you spending time with me today and our dealers today, so we can start having more of these conversations. And I will look to reach out to more of your peers so we can continue to sort of have this dialogue, because between what you all do and what our dealer members do, boy, that's a lot of transactions. That's a lot of a lot of activity going on throughout the Commonwealth.
Well, and kind of circle back with it relates to liens. Some of the biggest frustration always seems to surround liens.
Right.
Okay. Because it's the one thing that causes money to go missing or to be charged. So, the way that liens go from one place to another is really important too. And that's an educational piece. And it's a little different, but for right now, when a lien comes into me and I'm processing that lien here, we have sent out letters to everybody to say, hey, we'll pen that lien, but I can't perfect it here in my county. And we will send it back with the deal so that they can get it to that appropriate county for it to be filed. And right now, we have lien reports that come from the state that say, it's got 14 days before the title prints and all of that. So we have always got to improve our processes. I can't say my people are perfect at that. We are still always, making sure. But at the same time, I just want to let everybody know that the best way to handle that is go ahead and send the lien in with the deal, because you guys, the dealers, get to choose where it is. We're going to try to scan in that lien with the deal so that we know that it exists at the time, and then pen it properly, send it back with the dealer so that they can make sure it gets to the other county. And if that's done in a very timely fashion, they shouldn't have any problem getting it filed, going from pending to filed within a proper 30-day period. But that's going to be our process moving forward. We're going to let people know that we have pended them. Just a little note that says, yes, this has been pended, so that they know that that asset has been, that lien has been properly at least attached at the point that we've transferred. Sure.
Well, look, all very good stuff. Great information today. And we'll have other conversations like this down the road for certain. But from Kenton County, thank you for your time today, Gabe. Thank you for talking to our audience. And as I said, I'm sure there'll be other times. So to those out there listening, I'll remind you, you can listen on iTunes, Spotify. We have a YouTube channel. So whichever is your medium of choice, we're out there and available to you. This is Kentucky Horsepower. We thank you, and we will see you down the road.